Oh my god, I'm like genuinely, it's okay. First of all, filming this video has been the hardest thing of my life. So I filmed this video 3 times. I filmed it once and I deleted it because I just didn't like how the video was filmed. I filmed it again and I edited it and I accidentally deleted the video. And I tried to film it again right after, but I was genuinely furious that this has been so hard, so I stopped it. And I gave it a couple of days. I uploaded some terrible videos in between, and now we're back. And I'm gonna try to do this because generally, I think after this, if somehow this video fails, I'm giving up on it. I'm never telling this story again. So, here it is. Here is the Conrad video. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. In high school, I got my first job. I worked at this store because one of my best friends, Lindsay, worked there, and I started working there with her. But we also had another mutual friend who worked there, and her name is Sophia. Sophia ends up leaving and goes to go work at store B. I originally was gonna go work at store B, but then I went to store A because I was closer with Lindsay, and I worked there for 2 years. I get into a big debacle with the GM, and I end up quitting. After I quit, I had texted everyone. I texted a group chat with some old people who had worked there. I texted my friend Daisy. I texted my friend Robin, and I had texted my friend Sophia. And Sophia had asked me what happened, and I told her the whole thing. And she was like, "You should come work with me at store B. Like, we need people." And I was like, "Bet." I had applied there. I had my interview. I had a second interview, and then I got hired and I started working there. Well, in the time of working there, I had become friends with this girl, Annika. Like, kind of friends. We got close or whatever, but nothing too much. And I also had formed a little clique of these girls, Ramona, Kimberly, Trinity, and Rachel. And because the 5 of us had, like, started around the same time. Well, we had, like, this party for a holiday, and I had met this girl, Taylor, and we ended up getting close, and, like, after that, like, our friendship has flourished, like, between me, Taylor, and Annika. Well, Taylor is dating this guy, Steven, and Steven has this best friend, Conrad. And during this time, I had developed a crush for this guy, Cameron, and I also had developed a crush on Conrad. I still remember the first interaction me and Conrad had, where we started in different parts of the store. He started, like, in the back, and I started in the front. And I had walked to the back one time because I needed something. And he had asked me, he was like, "How do you recall this order?" And I didn't know. Like, it was the same way you can recall an order in the front of the store. But, like, I had never worked in the back of the store, so I didn't want to tell him something wrong. So I was just like, "Oh, I need this first." And he gave it to me. And then he ended up asking his friend Steven. And I still think about that, and it still keeps me up late at night, because I'm like, I could have just, like, said something, like, I don't know, I just cringe at this moment. I don't know why. And whatever, I was into this guy, Cameron, so I never really thought of Conrad too much. When I told Taylor and Annika, they were like, "Oh, like, haha, how funny, like, that's cool," or whatever. And Cameron ends up leaving because he's going back to college, like, this was during the summer, and so he leaves, and then I guess my general focus had shifted to Conrad. And I just, like, developed a crush on him, and I had fallen so hard. And I think one of the reasons why I felt so hard was because this was my first crush, like, outside of school. Like, this was my first crush, like, out in the wild, like, where I never, like, this was my first time being in an environment with new people, because Sophia was on leave because she was at school. Like, she was coming back later, so I genuinely was, like, in a new environment with new people, and I had no, like backup knowledge of this. And so I think that's why, like, it was my first time, like, crushing on someone with a new outlook, you could say. I don't know the correct way to explain it, but yeah, that's I want to divide this in chapters. That's chapter 1. That's, like, the introduction. In between these, I want to talk about, like, some funny moments. So I'm gonna, like, do 3 funny moments in between. Okay, so whenever Conrad asks me for something, he has this particular way of doing it. Like, he'll come up to me and he'll like shake his shake his foot a little bit, and he'll be like, Blake, can you do this for me, or can I do this, or blah blah blah. Like, his tone of voice changes, and I genuinely think it's like the cutest thing ever, because when he does that for when he ever asks anyone anything, but like it's funny. And he also has like the most like infectious laugh. Like, his laugh is definitely like unique. Like, it's definitely of like, please don't ever become a stranger whose laugh I could recognize anywhere. Like, I could recognize that laugh in an instant. Like, it's just funny. And I just had a funny moment with this guy where he doesn't have like a vehicle right now, for reasons I will not go into. And he came up to ask me like if he could go sit in my car, and he's done this before. And he comes up to me and he's like, I did it again. He comes up to me and he's like, Blake, and I'm like, yeah, like, yes, you can. And he was like, what was I gonna ask you? And I was like, you were gonna ask me if you can go sit in my car. And he was like, so can I go get the keys? And I thought he already had the keys on him, because I feel like he would know I would say yes, because I always say yes to his requests. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, like, go. And yeah. Okay, so now we're going into chapter 2, and this chapter is going to be him finding out I like him. So, the way this story goes. So, this was around the time when season 3 of The Summer I Turned Pretty was, like, debuting. Like, new episodes were coming out. And me, Taylor, and Annika were texting about it, like, in our group chat. And obviously, Taylor and her boyfriend lived together. And Taylor left to go take a shower. But she didn't tell us that. So, while she's in the shower, me and Annika were texting in the group chat about, like, we were assigning people in the store, like, different roles from The Summer I Turned Pretty. And Steven heard Taylor's phone going off while she was in the shower, because she left it behind. And he opens her phone and reads the text. He doesn't read all of them. He just reads, like, a good handful of them. And Taylor comes out the shower, and Steven immediately asks her, like, what is all this, like, Summer I Turned Pretty Store B version? And Taylor's like, oh, it's nothing. And Steven was like, no, like, tell me, like, I want to be on the joke. Like, I want to call Blake Belly. And then she was like, no, you can't. And she was like, okay, like, I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anyone, okay? And he's like, okay. And Taylor tells Steven, Blake likes Conrad. And he's like, oh. And she was like, you can't tell anyone, though. And he's like, okay, I won't. And this is where I learned that, like, you can't really trust Steven with stuff, because eventually it comes out. And this is where Conrad was learning like a little bit about the front of Store B. And he was training with Steven, and also there was my friend Rachel. And I guess Steven had walked away, and Conrad and Rachel were talking, because, you know, they're in the same place. And Conrad was talking about how he needs to make more friends, because he really only talks to Steven and Taylor. And Rachel was like, oh, like, you should talk to Blake, like, trying to throw me a bone. He's like, she was like, oh, like, he's really cool. And then Conrad was like, I don't know about that. And Rachel was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, Steven told me something, but, like, I don't think I should say. And Rachel was like, no, tell me, like, trying to, like, get it out of him. And Conrad was like, well, apparently Blake wants to bend me over. I'm just kidding. But no, apparently Blake's, like, into me, but, like, I don't swing that way. But he's, like, still cool, though, like, still a homie. And Rachel was like, oh, and then immediately texts me. And I still remember where I was. I was sitting on my couch watching something with my grandma, and I see that text come through, and I'm like, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Like, I felt like my world was ending. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to quit. I'm gonna have to get a new job. And so I end up texting our group chat about it. And I'm like, bro, like, how did this happen? Like, did one of y'all tell him? And they're all like, no, no. And then I was like, okay, like, I know Annika wouldn't do that to me. I know Taylor wouldn't do that to me. How did Steven find out? And so I'm thinking, and I'm like, maybe I talked about it loudly one day, and Steven overheard me and told him. Like, that's the only reasonable observation. But part of me did think, did Taylor tell Steven? Because, you know, like, they're husband and wife. Like, it makes sense. Like, it's the equivalent of being like, your secret safe with me and my best friend. But, like, I was like, but, like, why would Steven do that? I need to get to the bottom of this. So I go into work the next day, and I go into work, and I get there before Taylor, and I'm like thinking about what I'm gonna ask her. And so Taylor comes in, and we're like working, and I'm like, oh, by the way, like, I'm gonna fight your husband. And she was like, why? And then I was like, oh, because somehow he found out I liked Conrad, and he told him. And so I'm like, I don't know how this would happen, though. And then I see it in my peripheral vision. I see Taylor's facial expression just, like, drop, like, freeze. And I'm like, oh my god. Like, in that moment, I was like, Taylor told Steven. And so I'm trying to play it off. I'm like, maybe I talked loudly about it one day and Steven overheard me, but, like, I just can't believe it. And she was like, Blake, I have to tell you something, but don't get mad. And I was like, what? And she ends up telling me the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my god. And then Taylor ends up, like, freaking out, and she's like, I told him not to tell anyone, I can't believe you'd do that, and goes to the back and texts him. And Steven was like, what's wrong with it? And then Taylor was like, you don't understand, like, now Blake's never gonna trust me with anything again, and it's gonna be awkward between them, and this and that, and Steven was like, oh, like, how did this happen? And it ended up being this whole thing. I didn't talk to Blake or Steven. I just said my own name, hello. I didn't talk to Steven or Conrad for like 5 days at least, because, like, in my history, every time a guy has ever found out I liked them, they end up, like, ghosting me or slowly pushing me away, and I just never talk to them again. And so I was like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. Like, they're not gonna talk to me anymore. Like, it's gonna be awkward. And I just also didn't know how to talk to them, because I felt like anything I would say would be weird. And yeah, and there was a point where Steven was like, I don't understand, like, we're all adults here, like, what's wrong? And that's where I found out, like, I very much have the mindset of, like, a 13-year-old, where, like, but I think it's mainly from me suppressing my emotions, and just me just, like, not having the best of luck with expressing my emotions to people, because in the moment I felt like I was making everything worse. Like, I was the bad guy, and no one wanted to be my friend, and no one wanted to talk to me anymore. But, like, I didn't mean for it to come off like that. I just genuinely, like, didn't know how to react or to respond or to start a conversation. So looking back at it, it is a little cringe, but, like, it was my first time dealing with this outside of, like, school environment, like, in a grown-up environment. And so I justify myself in a way, and I also kind of, like, blame myself in a way. But after some time, it got good again, and everything was chill, everything was fine. And I remember when I got over it, I was going to an Addison Rae concert. And I was going with my friend Emma, and we were staying at her cousin Nancy's apartment. You know, because, like, it was just going to be easier than making the drive back, and she was just kind enough to let us stay there. And there was a day after the concert, and I was buying tickets for another concert, and it was, like, real aesthetic and everything. I was laying on the floor, the sun was hitting me in the perfect way, and I bought the tickets. And then I thought about this moment, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm over it, which really it happens a lot. Like, if I get, like, angry about something, like, after a while, like, if I have enough time to think and just, like, live life, I'll get over it. It's toxic, but that's how it works. And that's chapter 2. 3 more funny moments. There was this time going around where, like, okay, so I don't have the best of luck with friends. They often betray me a lot. and I often get backstabbed a lot. So there was this time where I was going around asking people, do you consider me a friend or a work friend, just to see where everybody stands. And Taylor and Annika both said they consider me friends, and Steven said he doesn't consider me a friend, he considers me a homie, which was funny. And I asked Conrad one day, and I was like, Conrad, do you consider me a friend or a work friend? And then he was like, oh, like, I consider you a friend. Like, if you asked me to hang out, I would. And it shocked me, it genuinely shocked me, because I responded to him and I was like, oh, like, I just thought you considered me, like, this weird guy you work with who, like, also likes you. And he was like, nah, bro, like, it's nothing like that. And then he told me that Steven had told him that I was going around asking people that, and I'm like, oh my god, Steven, like, keep something to yourself. Like, the friendship between me and Steven, like, it's definitely changed a lot. I do trust him, but there's always that thought in the back of my head of being like, are you keeping a secret, or are you telling people and you just gotten better at it? Like, that definitely, like, stays in the back of my head. There was this time where Conrad invited me to play Fortnite with him. Like, I want to assume it was as a joke. He was like, you should play Fortnite with us, like, we'd finally have a squad in forever. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had a feeling it was just a joke, because he was like, oh, we played Minecraft together, like, just like one time once for like 3 minutes. And I knew it was a joke, but part of me wanted to, like, believe, like, it was going to happen. And so I made sure Fortnite was updated on my PlayStation, just in case. But I ended up watching YouTube and, like, working or whatever on other stuff, like other videos. And the call and text never came through. So, yeah, that was a down bad moment for me. It was kind of embarrassing, but I knew not to get my hopes up. He also added me on Snapchat one day. So he had called me one day about something, and I didn't think much of this phone call. I thought he was just calling me just to talk about this one thing, and that would be it. I wasn't expecting him to save his phone number, my phone number in his phone. Well, he comes up to me one day, and he was like, oh, you came up on my Snapchat. And I was like, how? Like, that is so weird. Like, you don't pop up on mine. And he was like, oh, like, I added after I put your phone number in my phone, like, you popped up and I meant to add you. And I was like, oh, haha. And he showed me, and he spelled my name so wrong. He said he was, like, very much, like, not fully there when he added me. And he spelled my name, like, BIA, like, CKE. And it was just funny, like, he spelled my name so wrong. And then I got the notification later that day, like, it was like, oh, Conrad wants to be your friend. And I was like, oh my god, like, this is actually happening, like, that's crazy. But now we're getting into chapter 3, called Confessions. So this was around the time when The Life of a Showgirl came out. And if you know, The Life of a Showgirl has a song called Ruin the Friendship. And it is basically where Taylor Swift is like, it's like her last love song before she gets, like, married to, I almost said Travis Scott, to Travis Kelce. Dang it. I opened the wrong CD. Yeah, till she gets married to Travis Kelce. It was, like, her last one for now. And so, and she just talks about, like, oh, like, she never made a move on this guy until now. Like, she never made a move on this guy until now, and she, like, reflects on it, like, what would have happened. And the lyric that encouraged me to go and confess was this one, where it is, and it was not an invitation, should have kissed you anyway, and it was not, my advice is always ruin the friendship, better that than regret it for all time, should have kissed you anyway. And my advice is always answer the question, better than to ask it all your life, should have kissed you anyway. And around this time, Conrad was talking to me about moving and getting a new job, and I was like, before Conrad goes, I want to ask him. I mean, not ask him, I want to tell him. Because, like, I know this man already knows. I know, like, he knows I like him, but I want the closure. And I remember I asked a few of my friends about it. I asked Rachel, I asked Annika, and I asked my friend Stephanie. 3. and Stephanie and Rachel were all for it. Annika was against it because she's like, what if you make things more awkward? And I was like, you know what? Like, YOLO, you only live once. He's about to leave anyways. I'm maybe about to leave. Like, who cares at this point? Like, it was also my part of my life where I was like, I am not living life. I just need to have fun. And heard the risk is drowning, but I'm gonna take it. Like, life's too short to be thinking about what ifs. And so I remember this was very hard to do. Let me explain. So I didn't tell Taylor about this because I trust Taylor, but I didn't want Taylor's opinion because I knew she'd be against it. And I didn't want a chance of Steven finding out. So I wake up one morning and I forget why, but I called my friend Ramona. And we were talking, whatever, and I was like, yeah, like, I told her my plan, like, I want to do this tonight. And Ramona was like, oh, yeah. The manager, who was that night, Nick, had asked me to come in, but I told him I can't. Because, like, apparently, like, some other guy had called in. And I was like, Ramona, like, you need to close. And she was like, why? I was like, because Taylor is going to be working close to closing. And if Taylor stays... Okay, so Taylor and Conrad, they both don't drive. But, you know, like, Taylor lives with Steven, and Steven's best friends with Conrad, so sometimes he'll drive them and he'll pick them up. Like, if it's all three of them, just the two of them, or just one of them. That's how it works. And so, I was like, if Taylor stays to close, Steven's gonna come and pick them up, and I'm not gonna be able to tell Conrad. So you need to tell Nick that you're going to go in. And Ramona was like, okay, like, I'll do what I can. And somehow we ended up with, like, 5 closers. It was me, Ramona, this guy, Zachary, Conrad, and some other guy. And my plan... And before this, Conrad had asked Zachary to take him home one time. And I was like, okay, here's my ultimatum. If Conrad asks me to take him home, I'll tell him. And if Conrad asks Zachary to take him home, I'm never going to tell him. Like, it's a sign I shouldn't. And he ends up asking me to take him home. And near closing time, I started thinking about everything, and I started to feel sick to my stomach. And before we left, I was like, I feel like throwing up. And Conrad was like, oh, like, what's wrong? And I was like, I played it off. I was like, I don't know, I've just been working a lot, and maybe that's it. Like, maybe it's finally catching up to me. And Conrad was like, okay, well, like, be careful, because we're about to be in a car together. And in my head, I was like, I know, don't remind me. Like, I don't need reminders. And so we get in the car, and Conrad's trying to talk to me. I'm giving him, like, really bland answers and not talking because I'm nervous. And we end up getting to his house, and he's about to hop out my car. Like, he's telling me bye and everything. And I'm like, Conrad, can I tell you something? And he's like, yeah, sure, what is it? He puts his phone down, and he looks at me, and I'm like, shaking. And everyone thought I was going to back out, but I was like, no, I need to prove people wrong. And so I was like, I still remember word for word what I tell him. I was like, you know, like, I've been thinking about life recently, and, you know, like, YOLO. And I know you already know, but I just want to know the fact that I told you that I really like you. I like you a lot. I like your laugh. I like your smile. I like that you're funny. I think about you all the time. And I know the girl you end up with is going to be real lucky to have you. And I know life seems like a lot right now, but, like, you're doing really good, and I want you to know that. And he's like, thank you, Blake, like, that means a lot to me. And I was like, you know, like, you're talking about moving and getting a new job, and, like, who knows if I will ever see you again after this. And so I just wanted to tell you. And he was like, don't worry, Blake, as long as you talk to Taylor, you'll always talk to me. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Because we work the next day. And I was like, okay. And he gives me a hug. And it was, like, the first time where, like, I didn't have to initiate a hug. Like, I hug everyone, and I always got to be the one to, like, start it. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right, like, hug. But, like, he hugged me, and I'll capture that feeling in a bottle. And I remember I called Taylor I called Annika right away, and she's like, you did it? Like, I wasn't expecting you to. And I was like, I know. And then I was like, I need to call Taylor. And so I called Taylor, and she's like, what? Like, you did it? And I was like, yeah, you know, like, I've just been thinking about life a lot, and, you know, And she was like, okay, like, but I'll let you know if if Conrad tells Steven anything. And so I go to work the next day and I ask her, and she's like, she's like, I told Steven, and Steven was like, oh my god, like, why would he do that? Like, things are gonna be awkward now. And she started blaming her, and he was like, why would you let him do that? Like, why didn't you stop him? And then Taylor was like, I didn't even know it was happening. Like, I couldn't have done anything. And I was talking to Steven about it, and Steven was like, I think he was about to tell me, because he was like, Conrad was like, Steven, I need to tell you something, while they were like playing their game. And then he was like, what? And then Conrad was like, never mind, like, it's not important. And I told Steven why I didn't want to tell him, and he was like, yeah, like, I figured, like, we were talking about it, and Taylor was like, he's probably afraid I was gonna tell you or something. But yeah, that's chapter 3. And we're about to get to the last chapter. So 3 more funny moments. For Thanksgiving one time, I wrote Taylor, Steven, and Annika, like, thank you cards. Basically, like, thank you for being my friend. And I didn't want to write Conrad one, because I didn't think he would be okay with that, or it'd be weird. And so I was like, but I need to give him something, so I gave him $100. And I remember I pulled up to was dropping him off one day, and I was like, oh, like, before you go, like, I wrote the girls and Steven, like, thank you cards, but I didn't want to write you one because I didn't know how you feel about that, so here's this. And he thought I gave him $20. And he was like, oh, thank you, man, like, this means so much to me. And he hugged me, and he was like, this helps me out so much. And I was like, yeah, like, I didn't know what to get you, so here's $100. And he was like, this is $100. And he was like, and I turned my phone flashlight on, and he's looking at it, and he was like, oh my god, like, thank you, man. And he hugged me like 5 times, and he hugged me so hard, like, his hat fell off. And he gets on my car, and I call Taylor right away, and I call Annika right away, and I tell her about it, and she was like, $100, like, what? And they were like so in shock about it. And I remember when I added Taylor to the call, Taylor was like, yeah, I already know. Like, he called, like, Steven right away and was like, bro, like, you don't know what Blake just did for me. And I was like, oh my god. And they all dogged on me for it, because they thought it was like I was like buying my friendship, like, with him. But I was like, I know, no, like, I just felt like it was the first thing that came to mind, and I couldn't pass it up. But yeah, that's a funny moment. What's another one? So there was one time he went on break, and he was going to go sit in my car, and he sat in my car, but I went on break at the same time, and I wanted to sit in my car. So I texted him. I was like, hey, I just went on break, and I want to know if I can sit in my car. And he was like, I don't care, like, it's your car. And I was like, I'm just asking. And he never texted me back, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, like, whenever I sit in my car, I like to be left alone, and so I'm just going to let him be. And everyone was telling me, like, no, go sit with him. Like, come on, like, this is, like, a perfect moment. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, if he wants to be alone, he wants to be alone. I'm just gonna let it be. And there was this one time where I was gonna take him home, but he was like, oh, like, you don't need to take me home. Like, my friend is gonna come by, because he wants to show me, like, his new car that he bought. And I was like, oh, okay. And I low-key got, like, salty about it. And we leave, and I see a truck. I was expecting a nice-ass car, but I saw a truck. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I saw 2 girls in there. And they were, like, running around the truck and talking or whatever. And I was, like, looking in my rearview mirror at them. And I was getting so jealous. I was getting so heated, like, in the moment. And I was like, why? Like, why does this need to happen? Like... And it was just an embarrassing moment for me. But, okay, so now we're in chapter 4. And I'm not going to go too much on this chapter, but I'm going to tell you the gist of it. So, I'm taking Conrad home one day, and he asks me if he can talk to my friend, Ramona. And I'm like, when he told me that, I was like, of course, like, he has to talk to a girl, and it has to be one of my friends. And I was, like, mad. And I was like, I was like, what? because I like blacked out, and he was like, oh, I'm wondering if it's okay I talk to Ramona. And I was like, why are you asking me this? And he was like, you know, like, you two are like really good friends and I don't want to mess with anything. And I told him, I was like, look, Conrad, like, just because the way I feel doesn't mean you're like obligated to not talk to her, and just because we're friends doesn't mean like she's obligated to stay away from you. Like, if y'all think something can happen and it's gonna be healthy, like, go for it. But like, thank you for asking me, and thank you for telling me, like, feeling the need to like ask me first. Like, it's real nice that you consider my feelings. And he was like, yeah, well, Ramona wanted me to ask you. And I was so confused, and I was like, okay. And I was like, how long has this been going on? Because in the way, like, I was putting things in my head, I was like, this is the way, this is just new. And he was like, oh, about a week now, and he showed me the Snapchat streak, and it was 9 days. And I was like, y'all have been talking for 9 days? And he was like, yeah. And so I immediately got mad, because I was like, Ramona knows how I feel. Like, we bonded over unreciprocated love, like her liking someone and me liking Conrad, and we would talk about it. And I was like, she knows how I feel about him. Like, I felt betrayed in a way, because I was like, I don't know, in my head, I thought about it as like, you know, I am head over heels for this man. Like, I feel like she should have asked me, not asked me, but like told me, like, hey, like, I feel this way about Conrad, like, I'm gonna talk to him. And I would have been like, okay, cool, like, thank you for telling me, like, you know, like, that means a lot. Like, obviously, I can't stop anything. Like, I'm a firm believer in, like, if you like, you can't tell anyone who they can and can't date. Like, firm believer in that. And so I asked her about it the next day, and it escalated a lot. Like, it was good, and then it was bad, it was good, and it was bad, and then it was good, and it just became this whole thing. And yeah, that's the just that. And yeah, that's where we are today. My feelings fluctuate a lot with Conrad, in the sense that, like, let me cough. In the sense of, like, there are days where I like him so much, and there are days where I'm like, okay, I like him, and then there's days where I feel like I get over it, but then fall back into it. Like, I feel like this is like a Taylor Swift, like, type of, like, crush, where I could write a whole album about this man, and I would. And I'm trying to figure out what that means for me. Like, my feelings keep fluctuating. Like, is it me coming to my realization that will never be a thing and I get over it? But then, like, maybe I get a thought in the back of my head where it's like, this could happen. Like, maybe, possibly, even though it never would. Like, if you met Conrad is the straightest man you'll ever meet. And that's just how it is. And it's made me think, too, like, if I were to ever leave this job, would I still be head over heels, or is it because I see him every day? Like, that, like, type shit. But yeah, this is the Conrad video. I hope it was everything you dreamed it would be. I saw a TikTok where it was like, record yourself, like, talking about something you're passionate about, see how long it lasts. And this video is almost 40 minutes. And so that tells me everything I need to know. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe if you already done so. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I have 2 TikToks. I have my main one, and then one for my current hyperfixations. Right now it's Heated Revelry. I just finished filming that video, as you can see. And yeah.